It is a beautiful, crisp Sunday evening on the East Central Plains of Kansas. John Jacobson here on the Jacobson Group on KOFO 1220 103.7 FM. Several minutes after the 6 o'clock bells with USA Radio News, our new partner in unbiased, trustworthy national news. We join 1,100 other fellow radio station colleagues across the country with carrying USA Radio News. And now we want to welcome everybody in from all of our environs here with our great country music format on the East Central Plains. Legendary, as is our sports coverage. Wow, when we're not doing the Royals, we're back doing Braves and Cyclones. Have we had enormous, huge tilts between our Braves and Cyclone teams over the air here over the weekend? And you're listening to us from Johnson and Douglas, as well as here in Franklin and our adjoining counties of Anderson, Miami, and Lynn, and Osage. Listening to us up in Emporia, up by Wildcat country, and Lawrence in Jayhawk country. Topeka, our capital, the suburbs of Kansas City, including Olathe, Baldwin City, home of the other Wildcats from Baker University. And of course, we emanate here from Ottawa University, and all of our pals in Osage City, Princeton, Paola, Richmond, Linden, and Gardner and Garnett. Coach Patrick J. Knapp Jr. is our sidekick on this show, brought to you by Jim and Cindy Jandren, Midwest Renewable Energy, LLC. Ethanol, renewable fuels, energy for a strong America. It's lean, it's clean, and it's green. And Life Runners, liferunners.org. Go to that great website, get your t-shirt, run and walk for life, building a culture of life for expectant mothers and their babies on the way, both before and after birth. liferunners.org. Jim and Cindy Jandren, always appreciative of their sponsorship of these programs. And as you hear the great college fight anthems in the background here, we welcome back Coach Knapp. Coach, let's kick it off, all pun intended, a big weekend of college football last night. And, you know, we're getting to that season of the year where it can snow at the Notre Dame Navy game. That was kind of picturesque on national television, Coach.
Yeah, and it's snowing today in Chicago for the Giants and the Bears game. So the brisk weather is coming to the Midwest and to the North. Yeah, John, there were some big games yesterday. One of them you mentioned earlier, offset, which was Oregon at Iowa. That pretty much knocked Iowa out of any playoff.
Sure did.
Conversation. Then you had, as you said, Notre Dame Navy. Notre Dame continues to win. They're in the playoff conversation. Nebraska, although out of the playoff, went 7-3, a nice win at UCLA. Alabama won. Texas A&M won. The big game in the Big 12 was BYU at Texas Tech for all our Big 12 fans in the KC area. And Texas Tech won 28-7. Pretty big surprise that BYU could not score more than that. So then that leads us to our Jayhawks at 24-20 lost to Arizona. Kansas outgained the Arizona Wildcats 369 yards to 323.
So disappointing.
And recorded a season-high 5 sacks. Problem was they gave Arizona the ball on their own 20-yard line with 2:39 to play, up 20-17, and Arizona moved the chains all the way down to score with 39 seconds left for a difficult loss for the Jayhawk football team.
Yeah, it's a tough one. They've still got some stretching to go to get bowl eligible. And what about Wildcat country, Coach?
Yeah, they had a bye. That's what I have.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. I forgot about that, as did a couple of other teams this week. Was very noteworthy. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, our Chiefs have a bye this week. Am I right about that?
Yep.
So,
the Chiefs are off.
But that's good.
K-State and go ahead, John.
No, I was going to say K-State is still hoping to be bowl eligible, and you correctly pointed out a couple weeks ago it's going to be more difficult for them, but not impossible, Coach. There is a chance.
Yeah, well, K-State football will have the following schedule, and then we'll see how they do. They're at Oklahoma State on November 14th. That should be a W.
Should be.
After they play Oklahoma State, Utah, at Utah, very difficult.
Going to be a tough
could
contest.
Be the backbreaker.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And then they end with Colorado, who is basically a pansy to everybody this year. They're not playing well at all.
No.
Difficult year for Dion.
Yep.
And they should beat Colorado. So at least they would go 2-1, which would get them to 6-6, John.
It would, and it would make them bowl eligible. So both Kansas teams still in the hunt for a bowl game. Weather always will be a factor going forward. We're going to have our first anticipated hard freeze tonight here on the Kansas Plains. Supposed to get down to about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Coach, this will mark our first hard freeze. You're probably not dealing with that right now in New Mexico. What are your temps today? Just toy with me here, Coach.
High 70s.
Oh, man.
Gets to about 49 at night. But I tell you, the sun is really hot. It's so if you're out there midday and later, the sun feels real good.
I bet it does. Coach, for a lot of our listeners, they're to be reminded that they could actually catch you doing some ESPN telecasts this year, correct?
New Mexico State women's basketball actually starts Tuesday on ESPN Plus. We play New Mexico Highland. It'll be 6 o'clock Central Time. And, we play a lot of New Mexico, Arizona teams early, John, before we get out into our conference. And the bottom line is for our women, they're playing more road games this year than home games.
Really?
It's not the most ideal schedule. But anyway, we start on the 11th against New Mexico High.
Here with Coach Patrick J. Knapp Jr. Got to give a shout out to all of our Ottawa teams. You want to talk about the perfect storm this weekend? We had competitions going on everywhere. In Wichita, men's soccer advances further in the NAIA playoffs. The women's volleyball team, after Dr. McCullough and I led the student section in cheers on Thursday night, rallied for a great victory. They now look to be tied for 5th in the conference. They will be going to the conference tournament. And over the weekend, we had men's basketball at the Andy Carrier Memorial Tournament hosted by Ottawa University. And Coach, I was busy Saturday morning at our women's wrestling tournament over at Ottawa High School. Multilateral teams in for that. Women's wrestling, it was capacity crowd. They had 2 gyms going. Absolutely great early morning on Saturday. And then the Ottawa men's varsity baseball team intramural scrimmaging at the Ball Diamond there. Across from them, our 5-time omnibus collegiate national champion consecutive Ottawa women's flag football. They had their scrimmages going on the field adjacent. That was at noon. And of course, then we had our football game. Guys, the Ottawa Braves have evened up their season to 5-5, looking for one of the greatest turnarounds in franchise, in university, and perhaps in conference history. After going 1-9 last year, favored to win next Saturday and notch a 6-5 regular season winning season. Tremendous accomplishment for that Ottawa Braves football team. So, Coach, we're really busy here, and the kids are winning. I love to see it here.
That's great, John. I've been reading your text and looking at the photos, and you're a busy man. But you know that turnaround in football that you're talking about is really something, because I remember a year ago we were really down and out with them.
You know, Coach, a franchise quarterback can make a difference, and Luke Edwards has piloted this team with great confidence, and I teach a lot of these kids. They believe in the system that Coach Davis and Coach Anderson are running, and they knew that if they could get through a horrendously difficult front end of the schedule, Blake Griffin and I were saying, if we could just get to 2-5, we could sweep those last 4 games. Coach, that's exactly what's going on. This is a team that believes in themselves. They've got an explosive offense with a reliable quarterback. sometimes a quarterback like a point guard or a big person at the post can make all the difference.
There's no doubt. And the belief and the camaraderie and the sense of accomplishment that these kids are getting from a season like this is great to see.
Well, and Coach, our women's basketball team under Coach Hunter Bondurant, the stats, he's really running a 3-platoon team that full court presses the whole game. They can launch 90 field goal attempts, charter close to 30 assists a game with good 3-point shooting. I mean, no one gets in foul trouble with 15 players rotating in. He's on to something. Did you coach with kind of a riverboat gambler kind of style like that when you were at Georgetown, Coach?
Well, we did take up the, let's see, probably from 1990 to 97 or 98, we did take up what was called the system, the Paul Westhead.
I know. I watched you do that. You won championships with it. Continue.
And we were a very high scoring team. The only team that outscored us during that stretch was Providence because they played the same way. And we lost to Providence 124-112 in one game, John.
Wow.
And in another game, we beat them like 104-90 something. Most of the time, particularly in the early 90s, well, I would say 89, 90, 91, Providence got the best of us with that style. But after that, we beat them pretty regularly. They were the fast-paced team in the Big East. They were the pioneers of that. But this is a Grinnell College basketball system. Grinnell of Iowa. I'd be interested to talk to your coach sometime.
We're going to get Hunter on. Maybe next week. We may have Hunter as our special guest next week. And Hunter's got great bona fides. He spent quite a bit of time at Auburn before becoming head coach up here, and he has recruited some really tremendous ball players. We lost a lot of kids due to graduation last year, and of course portal, there were some transfers, but man, he brought in 3 1,000-point scorers, and you know what? They're the real deal. They're deep, and they're very tenacious on D.
John, the big thing with a system like that, which as I got into maybe the 6th, 7th, 8th year of it, and we faltered from it, is you have to be totally committed to running and pressing, and you cannot worry about what the other team does. You're not worried about stopping the other team because you're going to get the ball out of the net, push it up 100 miles an hour, and shoot threes, and you're look, they're going to play defense because they're going to press and try and disrupt the other team.
Exactly.
But in the end, they're going to shoot more threes than you, and they're going to score more threes, and the math works out in their favor. That has a lot to do with that style of play.
Well, and Coach Knapp, what's great here is you can listen to a lot of these contests, men's and women's, here on KOFO, but on games where we're not covering, and regardless, because you can listen to the game live on your earphones, attach your phone while you're in Wilson Fieldhouse. But guys, Wilson Fieldhouse on the outdoor campus, it is deafening in there. It is the greatest constructed echo chamber, I think, in the history of modern physics. And it was rocking the other night, ladies and gentlemen. And so it's going to be a very exciting year. I know Blake Griffin is thrilled to be calling play-by-play there. So, Coach, we're halfway through the show here. Let's talk about college hoops. We're underway. Tom Izzo's on TV last night. Rock and roll. Coach, let's kind of preview where we're at and where we're going.
Yeah, locally, of course, Kansas Jayhawks, John, did lose at North Carolina.
They did.
Had a great schedule, of course.
Yeah.
And the big statistic with that game was the bottom line was Kansas got out-rebounded big time by UNC. UNC also had 16 offensive rebounds. They forced KU to turn the ball over 14 times. So in essence, UNC got more possession, and they shot it well. Caleb Wilson, a big-time freshman guard for UNC, 24 points. With Kansas, Aaron Peterson, you'll hear his name all year, 29 minutes, 22 points. Bryson Tiller, big guy, big freshman from Atlanta, 12 points. That was a nice game for him. KU will have to bounce back to play Texas A&M Corpus Christi here on Tuesday. Then they play Princeton at home later in the week, John, and that is a scouting and system schedule by Bill Self.
Interesting.
You can meet a team like that in the NCAA tournament, and you have to prepare for their slow down style of play, back cut, dribble handoff, back cut, crazy spread out offense, and they're hard to guard. So that game next Saturday will be interesting. Princeton at KU.
Yeah, Coach is on top of all of this, and of course, we've got a ton of Jayhawk and Wildcat fans looking forward to this season. Prospects for those Wildcats, Coach, what do you think? Any shot at a breakthrough year for K-State?
Yeah, I do, John. I do. I kind of joked a few weeks ago how it was a total transfer portal team. With,
you did.
You needed a program. You needed a program to figure out the names. Of course, you need that everywhere anymore. But it was really a transformed team roster-wise. They beat Bellarmine 98-71. They're 2-0. P.J. Haggerty, as we have talked about, transfer from Memphis, 23 points. Kamari McGriff, there's a new name to look for. 6'9" wing. They have him as a wing.
Wow.
He had 16 points. Nate Johnson, the player of the year from the MAC, did well, 9.7 rebounds. K-State shot 62%. That is phenomenal.
Well, that's lights out.
They play California at home, which will be a good test. That game is on November 13th, so that is Thursday. And then they play Tulsa at home on the 17th. Big game against Mississippi State on the 20th. Chris Jans, the coach at Mississippi State, has been to 3 straight NCAA tournament. They are a tough team in the SEC. So I think a very manageable schedule for Coach Tang early. He could be undefeated going into that Mississippi State game, John.
Here with Coach Patrick J. Knapp Jr. on the Jacobson Group, our leadoff on KOFO's primetime Sunday night. And Coach, what's the circadian rhythm for a team this time of year? What's the vibes? What's the mental attitude? Weather's changing. Kids get a little homesick. There's holidays dangling there. What does a coach got to do to motivate his players in November? Does he hype them up? Does he cool them down? Does he give them kudos? Does he focus on critique? How do you get a team ready for the big long haul that is a college basketball season? It trajects through November, December, January, February, and hopefully March.
No, absolutely, John. You rev them up. You want to get a good start. There's no way you want to start a season 0-4 or 1-3. Obviously it depends on your schedule, but you want to rev them up. So you're trying to get best combinations on the floor, your best players the ball. You'll worry about your bench later, but you want to get a good start. And it really depends how you wound down the last couple of weeks of practice. But when the ball gets tipped off with these early games, which started November 3rd, you're in a race to get the best start you possibly can.
Coach Knapp with us. Okay, Coach, so I'll fess up. There's a time for everything, and I think something very good that I did in my career was term limited myself in the legislature voluntarily, went out with a big landslide victory, and I still miss it, but I know it was time to go when I went. Coach, do you ever miss not being on the bench coaching when you're there with the headset and the mic doing television broadcasts?
No, I don't miss it, John, because the game has changed dramatically since I retired in 2010. It's changed dramatically, and it's gone from steady rosters where you knew the players you were going to have coming back, and you grew them and nurtured them. Saw them graduate into a transfer portal where, like we said, Kansas State, 11 new players every year.
Wow.
It's just crazy. I don't really care whether they're paid or not. That really doesn't bother me. Obviously, that's the other part of it. You better be in a league where you can pay your players. If not, you're going to have a rough time fielding a team. So no, I don't miss it. Announcing the games keeps me heavily involved. I go to our men's and women's basketball practices here. I bits with the coaches about strategy. So I'm having fun with that.
Coach, has there been a lot of innovation? Following the trajectory of football and baseball, there's been so much innovation over the years, different offenses in football and different strategies, tactical in baseball. Have there been any huge innovations of late in terms of X's and O's on the court? You're right, wild fluctuations with portals and NIL and whatnot. And of course, years ago we saw a three-point line, and years before that we saw Dean Smith's four-corner offense. Anything that has happened that a lay follower would maybe not be aware of, this really now penetrating and permeating the hoops stratagem, either at the NBA or college level?
Yeah, John, some coaches, and I'm here looking at my paperwork, and the Kansas Jayhawk men jump right out at me as one of them. There are several coaches and teams that still run good offensive sets, but the majority of college basketball today, with men and women, is not only fast break, run the ball, which isn't new, but secondly, it's the pick and roll. Everything is ball screens in some way, shape, or form. The beginning of the set, the end of the shot clock, and how you defend those ball screens is critical. So if you go to a practice early on in a year, like I have here with our men and women, you will watch them doing pick and roll offense and defensive drills continually. And some of us old schoolers kind of think it's made the game boring. You like to see a spread offense, backdoor cuts, good screening, quick sets that can that are smart, genius type little things that get your kids open. There's some of that. I mean, Michigan State does it, okay? Kansas does it. UConn does it. UConn plays. Now, their ball screens in their offense, but UConn plays a very Euro-type flow motion offense. UConn men I'm talking about. And women. Gino's been fantastic at it. But ball screens, John. Your viewers, they may be tired of them, like some of us are, but how you defend them and how often you use them, ball screens are the key offensive weapon.
That from the coach. We'll have Coach Hunter Bondurant in here. Can't wait for this colloquy with Coach Knapp. And Coach, as we head on out, you've got that great podcast that we link to on our KOFO.com podcast page. How can they listen to Play-by-Play with you and Jerry Busone?
Anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever. Play-by-Play, Jerry Busone and myself. We will be recording a new one this week. Jerry just got back from Italy. We are going to do a couple of weeks of college basketball kickoffs. We know that they've already tipped off, but we have some great guests coming in, and we're going to do a segment on his tour of Italy, which he was over there a month.
Wow.
So that'll be very interesting. My understanding is that we're going to have one of the owners of one of the wineries in the wine-rich Tuscany area of Italy.
Very nice.
So stay tuned for that.
Sounds great. Well, guys, it's been wonderful to be with you again. We thank Jim and Cindy Jandron and the good folks at Midwest Renewable Energy LLC, as well as the good folks at Life Runners. Go to liferunners.org, get your T-shirt, Run and Walk for Life, helping expectant mothers and their babies both before and after birth. And guys, we're going to be back next week with Coach. The Chiefs are off this week, so we'll get back in and plow NFL territory next week. Happy Veterans Day in advance coming up on Tuesday. Thanks to all who have served, as the main street of Ottawa, Kansas is lined with dozens and dozens of giant, enormous Old Glory U.S. flags, thanks to our veterans. For all of us here at KOFO, including Coach Knapp, Sean Torres, our great engineer, yours truly, John Jacobson. Be safe, be smart, be good, be strong, stay warm. It's freezing tonight, down to 20. Love Jesus Christ, and God bless us, everyone. Till we meet again. Bye-bye.